Sylvia, the liberal drone from, and I mean that with affection, from the state of New Jersey, the great WABC. Yes, Sylvia.
Hi, Mark. You know, Mark, as far as I'm concerned, they can drill...
Talk slowly, because I can't hear... Hold on, I can't hear as fast as you talk. Take your time. Go ahead.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can start drilling tomorrow in Alaska and in many other places, although I don't think they should be allowed to deduct the cost of drilling dry wells, because that is privatizing the profit and socializing the loss. But the bottom line is, I think you know that we are...
Hold on, slow down. Do you deduct your interest mortgage?
Yes, I do.
Well, why should you?
And Mark, there's many things that where if I make a mistake, nobody covers it.
No, but I mean the point is that we do things in this society in terms of allowing people to keep their money, more of their money, for the purpose of promoting liberty and industry. If we take money from them for the purpose of promoting welfareism and big government, I object to it.
All right. Very good. So you support, socializing any losses?
No, what I support, ma'am, is more energy for our country at a cheaper price and unleashing this industry. This industry is taxed, meaning us, so heavily. We're taxed at the pump. They're taxed when they transport it. They're taxed when they look for it. They have corporate income taxes, capital gains taxes, state income taxes. I can go on and on and on. They actually, in many cases, pay more in taxes than they're earning as a net. So let's not play games here and pretend, they have some big Swiss bank account. But put that aside, what did you want to say?
What I did want to say, Mark, is that I think you touched on it earlier, is that oil is expensive now, the same reason that it was expensive back in 2008, because money is cheap, and in 2008, when the home mortgage bubble burst, the financial institutions decided to put their money in derivatives that they created for oil, which drove up the price of oil. And now that obviously...
Whoa. You are tying all kinds of disparate things together, my friend. The derivatives, lower her down. Fortunately, I have a lot of experience with Sylvia. The derivatives have nothing to do with oil prices, Sylvia. The derivatives have nothing to do. Do you know why we have these things called derivatives, Sylvia?
Well, Mark, I know why we have a futures market. It's for people.
Just stop bouncing around like the bouncing ball. I asked you a question. Do you know why we had and have a derivatives market, Sylvia?
Well, I suppose it's no, Mark. Tell me.
Well, you seem to be an expert. You've tied it into oil. I'm waiting for you to mention Halliburton. I'm going to tell you why. Lower her down because she doesn't really want to hear. I'll tell the audience. We all know about the Community Redevelopment Act. It created all these, they called them at the time, toxic mortgages. That is, mortgages for people who couldn't afford them. As a matter of fact, people are in homes now not paying their mortgages for a long period of time. But these folks, there were so many of them, they were so big, it was a matter of government iron-fisted policy. Andrew Cuomo was the HUD secretary. Janet Reno was the Attorney General of the United States. The Treasury Department was involved. The regulatory agencies involving banks were involved, and they called it redlining. If they wouldn't give loans to people who couldn't afford them, housing loans, they called it redlining. So they changed all the standards. We're talking about trillions of dollars in bad loans that were done intentionally. Now, what happened was, because really nobody was that interested in them, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac packaged them up. And then what they did is they sold them to companies like AIG and others. And what they did is they said, okay, now, so these are government-sponsored. The government has its imprimatur on all this. The government's encouraging it. It's pushing it. It's, in fact, demanding it as a matter of law. And they say, okay, now what we're going to do is insure these things. Basically, people are going to bet on whether they're going to get paid or not. This long train of ideologically driven abuses, created first and foremost by leftists in the federal government. Now, Sylvia wants us to believe that has something to do with oil companies. Go ahead, Sylvia.
Mark, the oil issue is separate, but what you have just described conveniently leaves out the fact that all the major investment banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, etc.,
they were all in on it. They had a blast.
We're pushing the lenders to make more of these reckless loans because the lenders were then just selling them off immediately.
Oh, jeez. I'm trying to be very nice today. So why didn't the government agencies stop them?
Why didn't they stop? Well, Mark, why doesn't the...
I'm going to tell you why, Sylvia, because I'm going to tell you why, Sylvia, because they were promoting them. And you may also recall Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are not covered by the SEC. So here we have HUD, the Department of Justice, the Department of the Treasury, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, up to their eyeballs. Banks could not expand. They could not build more branches, open more branches, unless they met what became then quotas on these. This has all been written about. It's even in my book. So what you should be arguing for, Sylvia, is less regulation, less government intrusion, a reduction of the size of the federal government. Let people fail. Let people succeed. People who fail will get up again and succeed again. That's the nature of the system. But you won't. You won't. Goldman Sachs is a big Democrat firm. I know this because they were bailed out by Democrats. I know this because the Democrats love Goldman Sachs.
Mark, who passed TARP?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were nothing more than Democrat crony waiting places where they were making tens of millions of dollars. You can't name a single Republican official who headed either of those agencies, and I can name several Democrats who became filthy rich. So why don't you admit it? Go ahead, admit it.
Mark, is there ever a chance that you could talk about an issue and not make it partisan? I mean, the Democrats are every bit as bad as the Republicans.
Let me explain this to you. By the way, Sylvia is a Democrat hack, for those of you who don't know. I'm going to tell the truth. And so far, I've told you the entire, well, I can't tell you everything, but I've told you the history under time constraints of exactly what occurred. And then you resort to, do you have to be partisan? Well, let me see. What's the name of the Republican that headed Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac? Do you know one?
What's the name of the Republican that passed TARP to support Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, et cetera?
Well, we all know, I see, the Democrats, and I think Obama voted for that.
And Mark, why...
Hold on. Quiet. I can't take it. Get out of here, you idiot. Oh, my God. Doesn't matter what I say. It's like, people on cocaine or crack. They're bouncing all over. I can't deal with it. Well, let the other talk show hosts bleed that caller for a half an hour and tell you how smart it is. I can't take it. Weren't you getting a headache, Mr. Producer? She's always like that. Oh, my God. I have to tell her to slow down. Ladies and gentlemen, when the left destroys our economy, and it's not bipartisan, why should I say it is? Now, I have criticized Bush plenty. As a matter of fact, I said, like Herbert Hoover and Liberty and Tyranny, I've said it on the air. He created the legal conditions, the policy conditions for Barack Obama. The first one to subsidize GM and Chrysler wasn't Obama, it was Bush. And he used TARP money to do it. And I said in my book, in my view, it violated the separation of powers doctrine, and he didn't have any authority to do it. Yet he did it. As well as tens of billions of dollars to Wall Street, as well as tens of billions of dollars to subsidize these phony mortgage programs. I've said it. I've written about it. But have you ever heard an Obama sycophant say that about him? Because Obama makes George Bush look like Milton Friedman. They won't give an inch. They won't give an inch. What they cannot do, and they will not do, is on the merits defend his record, because they can't. So they have to divert. They have to divert. So she wants to talk about Goldman Sachs. She wants to talk about TARP. What about the Republicans? What about this? What about Obama? She doesn't want to talk about Obama. Well, why not? Because there's nothing good to talk about. He's a failure. He's a fraud. He's a fraud. The things he says are lies. Now, the housing market is in depression, record condition, because of government policies that destroyed the mortgage business. Government policies that compelled banks and mortgage companies to use your money, because it's your money in those institutions, to use your money to subsidize people who could not afford homes, to change the rules, to take the checks and balances off the system, and then they tell you the problem is there weren't enough regulations. This is the way authoritarian tyrannies work. It would have been fine, except you people have too much liberty. You people kept too much money. What we needed to do are more rules. Take more of your money. So they want more authority. I think this government has demonstrated it's incapable of doing very much well. And yet it's at war with one industry after another. And by industry, do I mean millionaires and billionaires? I don't know. Who takes coal out of coal mines? Millionaires and billionaires or coal miners? I don't know who works the steel mills, millionaires and billionaires or hard-working people. Who works the oil patch, millionaires and billionaires? No, people with families, young kids who are trying to make ends meet. But they want you to keep thinking of Rockefeller. Oh, it's Rockefeller. No, it's Frank Jones. No, it's Jane Smith. They're the ones who lose their jobs and their pensions and their health care when the EPA does what it does, when HUD imposes outrageous rules on banks and mortgage companies. Government is completely out of control. We need to regulate government, and the way you regulate government is to deregulate the private sector.